right, welcome to a Halloween edition of super-centex podcast. I'm going to have a hard time keeping it together, as are y'all. So with me are, I guess, Wednesday Addams and
Tyrion Lannister.
Yes, thank you.
House of Lannister.
Yes, from Game of Thrones. Meanwhile, I am going as Public Enemy number one. Yeah, baby.
That's a reference to you're angering every Rangers fan within 150 miles.
Yeah, right? Living rent free in their heads just because I said I wasn't going to watch the World Series. Yeah. Apparently, I'm Public Enemy number one, and I will own it. In fact, here's what I tell the Ranger fans: bring on your hate. I'm like Darth Vader. I feed on your hate. So, y'all look great. It is a Tuesday edition of our podcast, so we did decide to Halloween it up a little bit, and just to go a little behind the scenes, it was like, yeah, I'll do it if you'll do it, kind of thing. We had a special request for Wednesday Addams and DJ, thankfully.
Well, and I get asked if I'm Peter Dinklage in airports. So,
right there.
Yeah.
So you've got to have a good half a foot on Peter Dinklage.
Well, I just accept it for what it is.
There you go. All right. Well, so it will be a Halloween themed version of the super-centex podcast. So here on our Halloween edition, we have reached week 11, which is the final week of the regular season. DJ, you're going to have to smile every once in a while. You're freaking me.
That's the point, though.
I know. You're in character. So obviously, we expect to have teams play all the way till Christmas time. But I want each of you to give me a trick and a treat. And here's what I mean by that. Couple of Central Texas teams, one that's a treat, the one that we expect to, really be good, be sweet in the playoffs, and, something you definitely want to see in your playoff bag. But the trick is not a bad thing. The trick is just, kind of full of mischief, a team that could be sneaky trouble for their playoff opponent. That maybe that other opponent doesn't necessarily see coming. So what do you say? Who are those teams?
I think Lorena might have a treat in the playoffs.
Yeah, they're looking strong.
Good answer.
And they got some good wins in the non-district. They got a great win in the district. Yeah, and for trick, I'm trying to think. Well, University's had some pretty ugly wins this season, and I think it's gonna surprise some people once they get into the postseason. Like, they're not just gonna roll over. I expect the Belton game to be just as close as last year. They were a defensive stop away from beating the Tigers, and they're a better team this year. Yeah, I think the Trojans are definitely gonna be a team that people are not going to expect some of the things that they do. And some of that is just sheer will, just like sheer the desire to be on the field, right? And for Lorena, I just think that they've got a pretty good streak going, and they've got a lot of guys that have stepped up during the season that, I think might continue to thrive.
Yeah, and obviously one of Lorena's losses was to China Spring. We know what the Cougars are. And regarding University, I agree with you. I think that's a good pick as kind of a sleeper team, if you want to call them that, because they're going to be going into the playoffs at 7-3, 8-2, whatever happens this week, and all they've got to do to reach the third round is win one more game than they did last year. They made it to the second round last year. And I think the experience of last year's postseason trip will help University. I think K'Ron Johnson has a real emphasis on defense for that team. A lot of universities, like you said, quote unquote, ugly wins this year, I think have been the Trojans kind of not always able to get out of their own way with penalties and mistakes and things like that. So if they can clean that stuff up, absolutely they can make a run. Chad, who are your tricks and treats?
Well, great answer with Lorena. The DJ gave, they're playing really well right now. I noticed, at least in the Max Prex box score, that Caden Roberts didn't play last week. So that's something that I don't know if he had an illness, because I saw him against Franklin and he didn't appear to get injured in that game. So, we'll see how that shapes up. China Spring, obviously, they're on a 12-game playoff winning streak. So that's always a good thing to have. Mart has been through some adversity and ready to go, I feel like, for the postseason. Man, and the tricks, I think the trick category, that's probably teams like Tig and Robinson that have battled a lot, been in some, played some good teams and battled, that might be ready to, really thrive in the postseason. Another one that's not in our area, but it's in our area district. Rockdale could make some noise, I feel like, if they get in. And then I think I had one other. Oh, the La Vega Pirates, right? La Vega can finish first, I think, if they beat Stephenville on Friday. With a tiebreaker, they could be the 1 seed or they could be the 3 seed, and either way, I think if they're the 3 seed, you better look out for the La Vega Pirates, because they got a really good offense this time around, and they're a playoff team, and they're a team that expects to win in the playoffs.
Yeah, if it gets into a shootout, you gotta like La Vega's chances, because they can put some points on the board. I'll mention a couple others. I mean, I agree with you guys on your choices. Chad kind of skimmed over them real quick, but obviously, to me, the most easy answer for the treat would be the Mart Panthers. They're the team we expect to be, playing deep into December, and certainly are buzzing through that district. Now, that district, I don't think is that good, especially on the bottom end. But Wortham and Dawson are not bad teams, and Mart just, cuts through them like butter. That's just what Mart does. So you're going to have to be pretty salty to stop Mart. And then for the trick, I thought for a minute, would Axtell even qualify as that? Are they a dark horse anymore? They're undefeated. But a team I do think is going to make some noise in the playoffs.
Well, statewide, I don't think people are thinking Axtell Longhorns week 4, week 5 of the playoffs. And I think very well could do that.
And I think they absolutely have that capability. We've talked about it some here on the pod, but defensively, they're playing lights out. Levi Leathers, the freshman quarterback, has really come into his own. Running game strong. So yeah, I think Axtell's one of those teams. And then I will just say this, like, Midway is going to be interesting. And so it was funny. This is why I bring this up. Millie, who y'all know is my daughter and is on the drill team. She was like, how long do the playoffs go? And I said, almost till Christmas. And she was like, what? Because she had got this image of, are my Fridays going to be occupied all the way till Christmas time? And I was like, okay, look, well, I don't expect them to play that long. But, and honestly, you don't see a lot of 5-5 teams making it to even the third round of the playoffs. But can Midway beat Waxahachie in their first round game? Absolutely. And then I have not looked at what the matchup would be, next. That's what so much of the playoffs is early on, is matchups. And then if you can win those matchups and get a little momentum, get a little swagger, well, they've got some players on that Midway team. and certainly are playing their best football when it matters. So,
yeah, what's that? The beating heart of Midway, right? That idea that Midway is a state competitor. That's kind of been buried under layers of not mediocrity but bad over the last few years, but it's still there, right? So you had to believe that it can rise up in the playoffs. And I mean, the Midway folks still know what it's like to be really good and to go deep into the November and December.
Yeah, and certainly they're wanting to restore that kind of tradition. All right, well, let's do the Monster Mash. So what I'm going with here is, what monster stat line impressed you the most this season?
I'm going to jump in first because I think this last week gave us some obvious answers. So I'm going to be the one to give the obvious answer, right?
Okay.
But you got Kyle Barton with 200 plus rushing yards and 5 touchdowns for China Spring. And, you got dueling running backs, because then you got in a different game, in a different classification, Braylon Henry rushing for 200 plus yards and 5 touchdowns. And, I know in the recent past, we've seen guys go for 400 and do things like that. But, this deep into district play, that 205 touchdowns, that's a monster night.
Absolutely. DJ?
Looking at this kid that has 12 interceptions.
Yeah.
Who is that?
Fairfield, the quarterback for Fairfield. And then Joseph McCurdy.
Wait, is that a monster line in the wrong direction?
I'm looking at these two kids, right? Cameron Cockrell Fairfield and Joseph McCurdy at Troy, who have thrown 12 and 11 interceptions, but have some pretty good yardage other than that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And McMurdy specifically still has 21 touchdown passes, 2,079 yards on 152 completions. And that's just, I don't know what to make of that other than, you've got some good kids who have just made bad decisions.
Gotcha. Yeah, DJ Wednesday Adams took it in a dark direction there.
I feel like
on a positive note, Cash McCollum has 41 touchdowns.
So. There you go.
41 touchdowns. Yeah.
There she is. There's sweet Wednesday.
So when Wednesday went like the season stat line, I went the single game stat line.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Brice, what direction are you going to take?
Whatever. Take it any way you want. That's kind of what I was thinking was single game. Certainly you could pick one of about 5 or 6 different Braylon Henry performances. I think I want to say had multiple 5 touchdown games. But another
Frost, Cooper Curl, Friday had like 19 tackles and then however many rushing yards. And hold on, let me pull up on roll because otherwise I'm not gonna.
All right, you look that up, but I will mention Kiefer Sibley early in the season when he played Cameron. Remember, he went for 391 rushing and 5 touchdowns. I mean, sometimes those numbers, it becomes like a video game and you're like, it doesn't even like, I think we almost sometimes become desensitized to it, but think about 391. That's basically 200 yards twice, 200 yards is a pretty good night. And he went for 391. That's a lot of long runs in that game.
Well, and if you're playing high school football, fantasy football in the area, Kiefer Sibley, like Caden Roberts, is one that has a QUES by his name this week, and you're watching that to see if they're going to be good because Kiefer Sibley left that game on Saturday against Madisonville with what I believe was a shoulder injury in the first quarter. So they need him back. They need him back this week, and Lorena eventually needs Caden Roberts back, although I believe they're off this week. So
Lorena is off this week.
Yeah.
Conley plays Robinson. And yeah, I mean, they would obviously like to finish off a perfect district run, win that outright district championship with a win over the Rockets. So yeah, we were talking about Kiefer Sibley yesterday at lunchtime, and it sounds like I need to check with Terry Garrick, or one of us does, but didn't sound good. That shoulder injury didn't sound
Oh
good.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Anyway, Cooper Curl,
mhm.
4
Okay.
receptions for 124 yards and 2 touchdowns, a 13-yard touchdown pass, 4 2-point conversion runs, and 19 tackles.
There you go. That's a busy night at the office right there. Way to go, Cooper Curl. And yeah, I mean, those 2A kids, some of them just don't come off the field.
We got an email, obviously, complaining about how we don't cover 2A enough. And they were naming schools like Riesel, Marlin, Crawford. And I was
that
like,
we cover all the time.
no, we cover all the time. Like, I know I've been to Marlin. I know I call at least one of those coaches once a week.
We've
had them on this podcast.
We've called, we had an entire 2A podcast. We call Levi Mr. 2A because he
and Marlin fits nicely into that trick category.
Oh, for sure.
And we're covering a couple of 2A games this week, by the way, fan out there, who normally would not be covered. And that is, we are covering the Riesel Bosqueville game, and we are covering the Crawford Bruceville Eddy game. That says a little bit something about the schedule this week. It's not that great. There's a lot of teams or several teams that are off. But yeah, we're still out there covering those games.
And you know what, these complaining fans, they don't, maybe they understand, they probably don't understand this, but like their negative emails, we're like vampires and feeding off that, you know.
Like I said, Darth Vader, baby. I feed on your hate. All right, so Central Texas has some mascots that are fierce and other mascots that are decidedly less so, more cuddly. If someone showed up on your doorstep tonight on Halloween dressed as one of our Centex mascots, who would be the scariest?
If you say Wampus Cats, Chad.
It's gotta be the Wampus Cats, right?
I was going to, but all right, DJ, you go first.
The thing about the Wampus Cats is they're a fictional cat, so you could make it kind of as anything you want.
Right. What do you have? What's your answer, DJ?
Gosh, I'm trying to look at some of these schools. I'm just like, I don't understand half of these mascots, honestly. We have so many bulldogs.
There's a lot of bulldogs, a lot of eagles, pirates.
What's a yeoman? Like, up to this point, I still don't know what that is.
I think that's just like a worker, right?
Well,
it's a hard worker.
If you put in a yeoman-like effort, right? Yes, that would be like a rugged worker. However, I think a Cameron yeoman is a little different because I believe it's the school technically is named after a person, like H.W. Yo or something like that.
Right.
And I'm making those initials up.
They're not named after Bill Yeoman, inventor of the beer.
No, they're not. And so I think in this case, the yeoman is more nondescript. So that's a great question, DJ. One we need to get to the bottom of. But
anyway, I don't know. I can't think of one that I'm just like.
Chad, what do you say?
Well, I remember when I was in high school, one of my science classes, the teacher warned us, if a polar bear decides to hunt you, it will hunt you down and kill you. Right?
I was also thinking of the polar bear. If a polar bear was on your doorstep, you would freak out.
Like if you were like out in the extreme north and you saw a polar bear coming, it's extreme measures time, right? You better have a gun on you because it's going to get bad in a hurry.
If you've ever seen The Revenant with DiCaprio,
and polar bears are meaner than grizzly bears, even.
Well, that bear scene is pretty savage.
Oh yeah, and I believe polar bears are the world's largest land mammal. No, that's not right because elephants are mammals.
Well, at any rate, I would not want to see a polar bear on my doorstep.
They might be the world's largest predator, like land predator.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it would probably be a little too warm for polar bears right now. And hope, I know Philip Gibson, the Frost coach, is trying to get those polar bears to be as fierce as an actual polar bear. Trying to build that up. He's only in his second year there, but I wouldn't want to see a swarm of hornets outside my door either. That would be bad.
That Grandview tunnel with the big zebra head is kind of creepy. I know they're
the acid trip zebra.
What would be funny with the zebra head if they put a big rainbow afro on it, which is a Madagascar reference there. That would be funny. All right. Well, finally, so we probably all went trick-or-treating in our day as kids, I assume. So if you were going trick-or-treating tonight, and if you are, you already have the costumes for it. You look great. But what would you most want to see in your bag? What's the go-to candy? This is not that hard of a question.
Well,
I'm waiting on DJ, and she's doing Wednesday Addams hardcore over there.
She's gonna put a spell on us.
I really like chocolate, but
yes,
I also really like the Mexican lollipops with the chili powder on them. And when you get past the chili part, it turns sweet, but the chili part is also good.
I love a good combination of spicy and sweet. That's a good answer. Okay, Chad.
Man, I grew up in the mean streets of Woodway, and one of the great things about growing up on the mean streets of Woodway is you had
listening to Public Enemy and
you had Eminem Mars is over there in Hewitt, and so you'd have people that worked for them, and then I remember I'd roll down Woodfall Avenue and just look for those Eminem Mars employees. You get a whole Snicker bars,
There you go. Well,
but the other, my guilty pleasure is Reese's Peanut Butter Cup too.
So that was my answer as well. To me, nothing beats chocolate and peanut butter together. Reese's is the bomb. I love when I go to the movie theater. A lot of times I'll get Reese's Pieces. That's a pretty good one. But you're right about. So obviously, most Halloween houses would give you, just the fun size. The small size, the Peter Dinklage size. But shut up. Okay, I've got a savage dog here. Cujo.
He did not like the Peter Dinklage reference.
No, he did not. She did not. So anytime you can get those houses that have the full size candy bar, that's pretty legit. So yeah, we like those for sure. Chad, you will be where this week?
Itasca at Axtell.
So you will see those Wampus Cats for a second time this season, kind of bookending,
and the Axtell Longhorns for the first time.
Right, kind of bookending your year, because didn't you see Itasca in the first game of the season?
Yeah, and Itasca, they're eliminated from the playoffs, but I talked to Ricky Torres yesterday, and he pointed out that they got 6 wins, and there's most since 2009. So that's a program trending in a good direction. Absolutely.
And so like you said, Axtell has a chance to finish off a 10-0 season, and then we'll see what kind of staying power the Longhorns have in the playoffs. I guess the Longhorn would be another thing you wouldn't want to see at your door.
Oh, they're docile.
Fair enough. Especially those ones down in Austin. We're off the rails now. DJ, where will you be?
I'll be in Belton for the University Belton game, district title game.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, both you
guys on the dock.
Weren't both you guys at that game last year? Wasn't it on a Thursday night?
Yeah. It got delayed because of the weather.
Okay.
I've slept several times since then, you know.
But that one came down to a field goal, I want to say, at the end for Belton.
Belton scored.
Yeah, but Belton scored at the very end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah. University lost a couple games that way last year. Yeah.
Yeah. So that should be a fun one, like you said, for the district championship. Meanwhile, I'm excited. So Midway is off this week, and I'm going to a different game. I'm going to see Conley and Robinson play. I would love to see Kiefer Sibley play. It sounds like that may be up in the air, but Cadets, as we said, are trying to finish off an outright district championship, trying to finish off the perfect run through district there. Big win.
Boy, what a game in the rain the other day, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to say, big win for them over Madisonville, right?
Mm-hmm. The catch that Jalen Nobles made, Vincent threw a really good ball. It was a wet ball, and Jalen Nobles turned around, reached up with one hand, grabbed it, pulled it in. Dang near, I don't know how he didn't score it because it took the defensive players a minute to figure out that he actually had the ball. And they dragged him down at the 1 yard line with 1 second left. And Kobe Black took it in for the win. So,
and Jalen Nobles, Kobe Black, both of those guys are really good guards in basketball, just great all-around athletes.
Oh, yeah.
And that would be just my little teaser. High school basketball season is about to start. Girls this week, boys next week. Chad's working on some stories for us. But yeah, the both like Jalen Nobles is smooth on the basketball court. And so obviously, pretty smooth.
Hey, wrap it up, Cherry. This wig itches.
All right. We'll see y'all later. Public Enemy, baby. Woohoo!
Public Enemy number 1.